making this fence now. And what I've done to start with, you can see these chunks of wood have come out here. We've cut out the top here so that the rail, we've got our framing rails, can sit into the top. I'll put that down, put this guy up here so you can see. Now that's going across the gate hole. That's going to go from here over to the fence, but I haven't got that rail up yet. So what we've done, we've chopped with the circular saw down from the top and across the bottom, and then I just got a hammer and chisel like this to chisel out the bit in here. So you can see the circular saw actually cut all the way down to here, and then this chisel fit inside where the saw cut was, and I was just able to come straight down the bottom, and the same cutting along here and across. This rail is going to mount, as you can see, right onto the top there like that. And down below I've got the circular saw, and again I've cut the circular saw to cut the two slots, and now I'm going to get the hammer and chisel on the line and I'm going to knock it out. Now, a couple of tips to make life a lot easier for you. This is a little offcut of the material I'm using for the rail. So when you're doing all of your measuring, if you've got a little offcut that you can put in place like this and just check your measurements and see what's flush and where it is, it really, really helps, particularly when it comes to the spatial awareness and just making sure you've got everything right. That's a really big tip and really helpful. Now, when it comes to cutting these, all circular saws will have a depth adjustment, so you can determine how deep they cut. And then when you cut along, you get that at the right spot all the way through, and then it's just a matter of hammering and chisel this out and then get it flat, and then the rail will sit in place. On my saw here, the depth adjustment is right here. You just flick this up, and then the sole plate, this plate here, actually moves, and you can see as the plate, if it comes right up here, then the saw's a lot deeper, and as it comes down, the saw gets shallower. It stays fixed at one end and pivots at the other, and that's how you vary the depth of how deep your saw cuts. At the moment it's cut for doing these guys into the post. I'll measure up and do this one over here. So that's where we're at the moment. We're about to hammer and chisel that out, and I'll show you that as we go. Just banged it in a little bit at the top and then banged it at the bottom, and already there's splits. If I hammer that, you'll see those splits starting to open up. Now, what you do want to be careful of, check the angle of your chisel. Don't let you go in, because you'll end up digging out too much, or that you coming shallow is okay. You can always take a bit more out, but just make sure you're either going in square as it's cracking, and it probably will come off in pieces. Going to get a much bigger result here. Yeah, look at that. All but that last little bit, because of the saw cuts, have come out really nicely. So looking in here, now it's just a matter of cleaning these up, and that you can do with your chisel on the bottom, banging in like that, anywhere where it's not cut off. Same chisel on the top, and banging in like that. Now you notice I turned the chisel over, so the chisel has a flat part and an edge. So in a situation like this, you put the flat on the flat, and then go in like that to cut, and the same up the top. And then the same when you're cutting this way, use your flat where you want it to end up flat. And the same now, we'll come in the other side here, and there it is. And you see, we'll now come in with the chisel that way, and chisel that little bit off, and it'll be pretty much done. I've given that a rough chisel out just to the eye, and then I get my little offcut of wood that I was talking to you about, and we just set it in, and we want that to end up flush, and that there's fine. In the middle, just a little bit there, just a high spot. As you see, there's a knot there, just the top of that. There, that's out a little bit, and there, just a little bit at the bottom. So just do a little bit of cleaning out. You can even see it. There's a bit of a hump here, a bit of a high spot there. So I'll come in and I'll lever those out, and then that one will be done. You can see it's still rough on the back, but where the saw cuts have gone through, it's really, really nice. So now you get a piece of your rail and see what, oh, there you go. That's actually coming up beautiful. And that is lovely and flush. I'll put a board on it. You can see when we put anything on there, that's absolutely lovely. That's what we're after. So there, good job, she's done. Most of the work is done by your circular saw. You can do that, of course, with a hand saw, and just cut across if you don't have a circular saw. Or a circular saw, make sure you set the depth so it doesn't dig too deep, and then you can chisel it out. Beautiful. Okay, so we are rocking along with the fence here. Got this panel here all done. Have just been putting 2 screws in as I've been putting the palings in. At the top, this is to stop it from twisting, and then just one down the bottom, right in the middle, and that should be well and truly enough to hold it. These cypress pickets, so they're really good at holding their shape and resisting the weather. They've got a good amount of oil in them. The way I've been mounting it, you need a board or something that you either cut to shape or that is, not to shape, sorry, the thickness of what you want to put between. And you see that board there is the thickness of what goes through there. So when I'm putting the first screw in, I'm going with a level. I've got an advantage here that this fence is level right the way across. So I can just set a level on top of it and get the right height for my boards as I go. You can also put a string line across. A little bit hard with the brick on this end, but it can be done. Put a string line right the way across. So if you put your first board up, and then you can mount a string line to that over the top, right the way along, and then you can mount all of your boards to that height is the other way to do it. I'm just using a level. And yeah, I've got one of the first hinges on as well. Because this is going on to a spa application, it needs to be self-latching, self-closing gates. So I've got spring-loaded hinges mounted. And when it comes to mounting hinges in a picket fence, you know, you can put them on the back if you're going to sit your gate back into the hole a little bit. Or in this situation, I'm going to have the pickets level right across the front here. And you see what I've done, I've actually checked this hinge in. So this is the post where I've checked the post, the rail here into the post, so it's all good and nice and strong. And then the hinge, I've also checked into this as well, so it all sits flush and nice along here and along there, so the board doesn't sit out. Now, of course, you can check into this if you want and have the hinge sitting out a bit, or you can do what I've done here and check in to there. Now, a little tip about squaring up a post. When I put this in, it was square, but I'm in clay here, and the clay was quite wet when I put it in, and it's now dried out. So it has actually moved a little bit off square. It's tipped a little bit, what was it, this way. Just a fraction has come off square, and I want to hang a square gate on it. So it's come a little bit this way. So what I've actually done, I've checked this hinge in a little bit, and this one down here, you'll see, I haven't. He's sitting just on the surface. So that, in effect, does exactly what we talked about, of just straightening up that gate, because you want the gate to be able to swing square off this post here. So that's just a little cheat, a little bit of an adjustment you can make just by checking one hinge in and not checking the other one in. And of course, the amount of how far you check it in can vary how much it alters. That's about how much it was out by. And it is very important, if you want your gate to swing nicely, that you get your hinges square and true, and then it'll all work properly. And again, because this was sitting out a little bit, I put this level, because this was sitting out a little bit. I've not only checked it into the post so that this comes in flush, but I've also chopped a little bit out of this board here, as you can see, so that the bulgy bit of the hinge doesn't push the board out. So that the end effect that I'm after is that the board sits flat and true and square, and that's the effect that I've achieved. So it takes a bit of time. It takes a lot of time, actually, just to potter around with things like that and get it right. But that's the difference between getting a really, really good job. And the same over here, we're just ripping along, putting the bits of board on. Using, you can see there's a piece of that narrow board, which is my sizing piece. So the gap is the same all the way along. And just using the level sitting up on top, like I've got going there, to keep them level, or it can be a string, as I said. And they'll be up. And have a look. I'll put a link up here eventually to the gate. I'm just going to build a frame here and build my own gate, and I'll talk about the stay that's got to go in it. Very, very important. And I'm also going to talk about the pool specifications, because this is built to pool specifications. So I'll do another video. I'll put a link up here that shows what the pool specifications are on this gate.